Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Vesuvius Town Council, Monday, July 19th, Council Chambers, 7 o'clock p.m. Sorry for the short delay. We were just having a little bit of trouble with our webcasting setup here. When I said it was the regular meeting, it is also the last evening meeting of Vesuvius Town Council. Starting in August, we will be holding our meetings at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, although they will be available for the TV audience at the 7 o'clock time slot. So there will be some changes coming, but for people picking it up on TV, they really shouldn't see any difference. So I'd like to, the first portion of business would be the adoption of the minutes, and this is Committee of the Whole minutes from July the 5th, the regular open minutes from July the 5th, the public hearing minutes from July the 6th, and the special open minutes from July the 6th, all up for adoption. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Ryan, any discussion on those? As they are, all in favor, opposed, adopted. There was no business arising from those minutes. Introduction of late items. There is one late item for this evening, and this would be a report on the Okanagan Basin Water Board tipping fees. This will appear on the agenda as Business 5. No delegations this evening. Heading into water matters, there is a water district cash requirements to July the 19th in the amount of $23,954.77. Looking for a motion from Councillor Morera, seconded by Councillor Laranjo. Any discussion on that account? Hearing none, all in favor, opposed, carried. Under correspondence, we have a report from the Okanagan Basin Water Board regarding the July 6th meeting highlights. Any input on those? Hearing none, a motion to receive, please. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Chadsey, all in favor, opposed, they have been received. Going into I was on a pretty good roll there, Ms. Van Vienen.
That was Rhodes and sorry.
Rhodes and Chadsey. Sorry, I was a bit ahead of my recording secretary here. So.
Okay. Bylaws. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So under bylaws, there's a Line Park zoning amendment up for adoption. Councillor Cronmiller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is with regards to zoning amendment bylaw 1085.82, regards to Lions Park, to add a specific site-specific permitted use to allow for a marina. The background on this bylaw: May 3rd, 2010, Council gave first reading to the bylaw, and on May 17th, Council convened a first public hearing, and during its regular meeting deferred second and third bylaw readings. Resolved that a public information was held. June the 10th, a public information meeting was held. June 24th, Council gave second reading as amended to the bylaw, required prior to the second public hearing. In response to some public concerns that have been raised, the amendment includes the current zoning definition of marina and clarifies the site's description in lot 763 to include the immediate areas surrounding Lions Park Lagoon. On July the 6th, Council convened the second public hearing. Following a second public hearing, special open meeting held of Council, and the bylaw received third reading. Tonight, the bylaw is up for amendment bylaw is up for adoption, and I would move that zoning amendment bylaw 1085.82 2010 be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Rhodes. Speaking to that, please. Councillor Cronmiller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a lot of things have been said with regards to this bylaw, and that there's been a lot of public input into it, and a lot of concerns raised, and also a lot of from both sides of the fence, and I think that it's time we move ahead and gives us an opportunity to do some planning, what exactly this will all look like in the end is still in the planning stages, and it just allows us to continue with our planning for that, for the area in throughout Lions Park and Gyro Park and our downtown area. And so I think that we adopt this, and it just lets us move ahead. And so I would speak in favor of adoption.
Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief note regarding one of the other matters that came up at our special meeting that followed this, and that was the phasing in. And I'd also like to pause and thank Councillor Ryan for introducing that motion at our meeting. A great way to move forward with our project down there, and thank you very much for that. And that's about all I wanted to say. I am speaking in favor of the motion.
Councillor Ryan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would speak in favor of the motion as well for a number of reasons. First of all, I'm very aware of the responsibility and the obligation that we have to assist the watermark to find a suitable place for both the launching and the storage of their guests and visitors' boats. But also, as Councillor Rhodes alluded, we do have a motion that is going to reaffirm that Council will be looking at this in great detail. As the property owner, we can control what takes place on the lands and the adjoining waters. We will be working with a watermark as a business partner, and we'll be crafting an agreement that will spell out our respective roles and responsibilities. And we will also be determining with the borrowing of monies that we may need to construct it, and that will give as well our residents an opportunity to see what's being done and to decide whether that's something that they want to do at that point. So there will be a development process, a commercial development process, development permit process in place, and it will give us a chance to look in great detail. So it's not, what we've seen isn't necessarily what we are going to do. It was just the best concept that we had to try to show what was projected. And so I feel comfortable in going ahead with the adoption of the site-specific use for permitting a marina in that park, that specific Lions Park area by the lagoon, and all the other things are still to be determined.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Chazzy, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do support this motion, and really I said everything at the public hearing, but I do I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who came to the 2 public hearings and to the open house, and who spoke. It takes that's a very difficult task, to stand up in front of a microphone and speak how you truly feel, and I applaud everybody who did that, and I'm warmed by all the people who have since come forward and talked about how they're glad that the marina is going ahead, and as we move on with difficult issues, whether it is the lake or the water zoning bylaw that's coming forward, I really hope that people will come forward and give us good comments, good criticism, and good support. We need that great mix. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chadzi, and I also will be supporting this adoption of the zoning amendment. We had our 3-2 splits. I think we had about 3 of them over this issue. I'm still not crazy about the gasoline, nor do I like the commercial aspect of it. But really, where we have it now, I think it's in a good place. I think council has control. We have that phase in. Every leg of this that comes forward will come before council, and believe me, we will be taking this to the public on all the issues that are out there. We certainly saw that they wanted to be involved in some of these bigger decisions in the community, and we will be doing that. But as far as the adopting the zoning amendment bylaw, I too will be in favor of that. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That brings us into the business of the Osoyoos Town Council. Business 1, council meeting reports for Councillor Ryan. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Ryan attended a Planning and Priorities Committee meeting for our Regional Library Board and submitted a report that took place in Kelowna, and it's for $100.
And a seconder, Councillor Cronmiller. This is just routine, or not, sorry, routine, but when we do go out of town, this is for reimbursement for that day spent out of town on council business. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Yep. Business number 2, bylaw enforcement. Councillor Chadsey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a report here from our Director of Corporate Services, and she is asking for additional bylaw enforcement hours. Now, Council had previously allotted additional hours to the bylaw in order to allow for more resources if necessary. And so the additional hours of 294 for park enforcement have been available to the bylaw enforcement officers at the discretion of the town each year. In light of the issues that the bylaw enforcement officers are facing in the parks quite recently, and the concern of the safety of all of the officers, the daytime park attendant duties can no longer be handled by one person. The report is indicating that 2 people will be required to ensure their safety. And so therefore they are requesting that the additional 294 hours be authorized, that we authorize the use of them as needed for park enforcement for the remaining of this summer. There is a cost attachment of approximately $7,350, and I believe, and we have the finance director here, I believe that there is funding available for that. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to make a recommendation that the additional 294 hours that are in the budget be approved under the bylaw enforcement contract for park enforcement at a cost of $7,350, and that the funds are available in the 2010 budget.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Ryan. Further discussion on this, please. Councillor Chadsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess we're all a little bothered that our bylaw enforcement officers are not safe down at the beach in the daytime, let alone at night, and so now we're required to have a buddy system in order just to keep our parks safe. And I really would like us to work on this over the winter. We talked about it this morning at our committee of the whole meeting, and some very good ideas came forward. And I would really hope that the council provide staff with the direction to make sure that we don't face this next year. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. We have used these extra hours in the past, and in the discussion we had this morning, we also were talking about going to the Union of BC Municipalities Convention, and at that time we get a chance to talk to various members of the cabinet, various members of the government, and I think this is something that we want to bring to them, not only the problems that we're having with transients, but also the difficulties we have in accessing our police force, and they, I know, have had some issues with people being seconded for other duties, but I'm sure that this is something that we should bring forward and make sure that we get as much support as we can for the future.
Thank you. Councillor Cronmiller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In my time in Osoyoos in the last 11 years, and as the sergeant in charge of the detachment here, And now as a town councilor, this is probably one of the most frustrating things that I've seen and encountered in that time in trying to serve the people of the community and not being able to resolve this problem. And every year we talk about it, and it seems to come in July when it peaks, and then it starts declining, and by the middle of August it's almost disappeared. And then we talk about it in the winter and can't come up with much resolution, and we start all over again the next year. The RCMP have many difficulties I am aware of. However, having said that, I think it's important that their presence be there in the beach area. The presence of a police officer is much more effective than anything else, I think. And our bylaw people are limited in the things that they can do. They try their best. I know they work hard at doing whatever they can down there and trying to provide a safe place for everybody to go and enjoy the beach and enjoy our park. And really difficult. They need the assistance of the RCMP, and they need your assistance as well. And I think to the people of the community, it's important, and even to the tourists, if we could get the message. We get complaints about what goes on in the park. People witness things that happen in the park that are illegal, whether it's drinking, whether it's drugs, or other things that can happen down there, and they don't pass it on. They leave town or they do something else that day, and the next day they talk about it to somebody else or to us or to the town staff or write a letter, and yet they witness something and don't pass it on at the time that it happened. And they need to do that because, enforcement is only as good as the eyes of the people that help them. And so I think it's really important that we do that as well. But I really want to encourage council, and we've done it, talked about it, but maybe this time we can get something going. If we could go to the Attorney General, I like that idea that we put some pressure on the provincial government, because our policing is funded by the province, not funded by the town, so that adds difficulties as to how we can work together sometimes financially and what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. So I think we need to go to the Attorney General with this problem and talk about ways and means that we can assist to do something about it and make it park a good place for everybody. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, it sort of ties in a bit into an item that's coming up a little bit later in the report, maybe under the mayor's report, on the press release on the seasonal workers in the Okanagan and the meeting we had. So this ties into some of the issues that came up there. And I just hope, could I have, was the motion, the recommended motion, just for the 294 hours and as we have it? I really hope that, as Councillor Chadsey hinted at, that we can take this further. I think we have to look at some of the issues coming up, and this should be heading into the budget process for next year. And I know there's been different ideas through RCMP and seasonal policing, and we have to run a few of these ideas down. But I hope Council again really brings this to the forefront, because I just think we need a bigger presence down there, be that with RCMP backup or be that with additional folks putting in hours for our bylaw contractors. So it's really important, and I think we have to get this done early. Again, we usually end up chasing our tail on this, and I'm hoping that this council will be proactive and take this to the forefront, and we'll have everything in place before the season starts. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The next item, I will turn the gavel over to Councillor Michael Ryan. This is the Upper Spartan Drive and Fuji Court intersection. This is a little too close to home for me. This is right in front of my house. So I will recuse myself, as I have for any dealings on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this matter is about the reconstruction of Fuji Court and the intersection that it has with Upper Spartan Drive. This is something that is needed both because of the nature of that intersection and the condition of Fuji Court, as well as the in preparation for anticipated increased traffic flow down to the boat launch. So just a little background on this. The Fuji Court has a roadway, a pavement that is about 40 years old, and it's in an advanced state of deterioration. There's no curb, no gutter, no sidewalk, and not even a proper turnaround. It's a cul-de-sac, but it doesn't really have sufficient room for a turnaround. And there's also a very poor alignment where Fuji meets Spartan, and it appears to be a continuation of Spartan Drive. It's kind of a V with two prongs going out. One is Fuji, and the other is Spartan. So it's fortunately we haven't had any accidents there of any significance, but it's certainly not an ideal situation or an ideal intersection. So we did have in April a public meeting, a public consultation regarding this, and at that time a model was shown of how that might happen, and I think we're seeing that. This was done by our engineering firm of True Consulting, and there were a number of ideas about it, and a number of things that came out from the residents who attended, and they were concerned about parking, especially a new condo, the Revolution townhomes that have attracted a lot of parking in front of them, and also parking on the east side of Spartan just as it descends the hill, and as well as a lot more parking along Fuji Court itself. So there were some differences of opinion, and True Consulting said that they would look at another alternative to perhaps enhance the way it's currently meets Spartan Drive. So they did, and they submitted two drawings to a traffic engineer who has specific expertise in this, Mr. David Dean in Kamloops, and he looked at them and evaluated them, and basically came up with the recommendation that the best one is the one that was first submitted by True Engineering, which has the intersection a little bit further to the north along Spartan Drive, and you're seeing that on your screen right now. And that is one that has an intersection angle that's approximately 90 degrees, provides proper sight lines and intersection turning speeds, and is consistent with today's standards. And when we rebuild roads, we always like to build them to the current standards, the most safe standards, and so this is what's happening there. Also, there will be a pedestrian sidewalk all along, and it will cross just in front, just at the stop sign. So it'll be safe to cross over if you're descending Spartan Drive, and if you're not, you can stay on it and go to the end of Fuji Court. So option one, the one that we see before us here, with the 90-degree intersection, gives good sight lines. It gives a very clear indication that it's there, and is considered to be the safest of the safer of the two options. So that is what we have before us, and so I would ask council what they would like to do with this situation of needing to improve that that intersection and Fuji Court. Yes, Councillor Cron-Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd propose move that we proceed with option one, according to the design that's been presented.
Okay, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Any comment on that from the mover and seconder? Yes, Councillor Cron-Miller.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. when I look at this picture, and I know that True Consulting has worked with us on the marina design and the marina plan and the parking lot and all of that, and so this has been configured to work in with that plan as well. So I think that it's really good that way, and I think that the idea of this intersection with Fuji Court is a lot better because for the sightlines, but also it's going to deter traffic from going down Fuji Court where there's nothing there except of some residences, and that's been a nuisance for the neighborhood for quite some time. So I think that it'll be an advantage to send people down towards the lake, and then we have a one-way or whatever we do there. Will at least move the flow of traffic a lot better than it is now. And the design with the wall and things that we'll do there will be a big improvement. Sure.
Good, thank you. Yes, that's right. There'll be a proper turnaround, and your point about the knowing what street you're on is an important one. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm speaking in favor of Plan 10-1. That whole Fuji Court area down there is very problematic. I don't think the report really emphasizes a lot of the difficulties that we have down there. There's an unguarded 8 to 10 foot drop off there that has no curbing or stopping of any kind. Many of the residents back out of their driveways in that area. And as you're going northbound along Spartan Drive, I think the way it's set up right now really encourages traffic to go down there that is not intended. This design of this intersection will certainly take care of all of those problems. Similarly, when you're southbound on Spartan Drive, there is a little bit of a yield sign there, which is totally ineffective. There's no sight lines of traffic coming off of Fuji Court, and once again, that'll take care of that problem. And additionally, this plan does allow for 6 parking spots that are not there right now. Once again, parking is at a premium for a good part of our year, and this certainly will add to that pool of parking spots in the downtown area and assist some guest parking, some of the residents and development along there. So I am very much speaking in favor of this. I think it's well designed, well laid out, and solves just about all of the problems on Fuji Court.
Good, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Chetsey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the benefit of those who are going to watch this on television, what happened at the public information meeting, people looked at the drawing, and they also looked at the kind of the conceptual drawing that was on the waterfront master plan. And the two drawings differed slightly. The one that is being supported by council is the original drawing where there's a little kink as Fuji Court comes up to Spartan. The second drawing that they saw on the waterfront master plan was a more straighter Fuji Court that just kind of blended into Spartan. And so because some of them referenced that maybe that might be their choice, staff had instructed our engineer to prepare that drawing just to see what the difference was. And it was a really good exercise. The Ministry of Highways commented on both of them. And as we've heard tonight, you know, to do the more straighter one is less parking. It doesn't identify Fuji Court as an individual street. It still will cause people to just kind of slide down there. Turning radiuses going south off on Spartan onto Fuji aren't as good, and the intersection is really kind of hidden. So it was a good exercise to go through. We now have seen the difference, and you know, when you're dealing with an existing intersection, it really is a difficult process to try and fix it up. So I'm liking the original plan, and I'm really excited for everyone on Fuji Court.
Good, thank you very much. All right, any other comments? Are you ready for the question? All right, all those in favor of the motion to accept the first option, which is drawing 10-1. Opposed? No, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, we can call the mayor back in.
Thank you. Upper Spartan Drive brings us to business 4, the community survey results. There's a bit of background on this. This is a report on the community survey results, which is being released this week right now. There was a press release came out dealing with it. So the background is that the Council Commission, Ipsos Reid, social research specialist for an impartial citizen satisfaction survey data interpretation. And the research was seeking information from residents in the following key areas: the quality of life, council issue agenda, resident satisfaction with some key municipal services, council communication with the residents, and citizen priorities and expectations. There were 300 telephone interviews from a randomly selected representative sample of Vesuvius residents aged 18 and over. And again, this was only for residents of Vesuvius, not residents of rural area A. The survey interviews were conducted between April the 29th and May the 9th. The final data was weighted to ensure age and gender distributions reflected the actual population of Vesuvius based on the 2006 census data, and where appropriate, results were compared to other BC communities. The results, the overall perceptions are predominantly positive. Some of the positive rankings are lower than norms, but are well within accepted margins. Under good quality of life, 93% of respondents rated their quality of life in the community as very good or good. Satisfied with services, on the print and on the first release it was 97%. I would like to make that correction. 87% were very or somewhat satisfied with the quality of municipal services. Under good value for the tax dollar, 78% said they were getting very good value or fairly good value for their tax dollars. When the public was asked for their main issues, the environment topped their responses. This priority ranking was well above the normal rating in other communities. On top of the issues, including the economic growth, transportation, and municipal government services. Growth is mentioned as a reason why the quality of life has both improved and worsened. So, and it was about the same percentage point. I think it was about 11% said that growth had improved the quality of life, and I think it was that same 11% said that it had worsened their perception of the quality of life in Vesuvius. Citizens prefer tax increases over service cuts. 35% said tax increases to maintain service levels, and 27% said to cut services to maintain current tax levels. There is room to increase the amount of information distributed to the residents. 54% said they received just the right amount of information from the town, and 50% said the paper is the way to communicate. But at 54%, I think Council saw that and realized that we're always talking about communication, and obviously this certainly brings to light something that that we're not doing well enough yet. We're going to have to get better at doing that and communicating Council's wishes and direction to the people. 4 in 10 citizens have visited the town's website in the last 12 months. And when asked to rank Council's identified priorities, town investment in affordable housing was deemed the most important. The information collected will be used by the administration in a review of services and acts as a report card to assess areas of strength or needs for improvement. This shall establish a benchmark should the survey be completed again enabling the town to assess progress. The information will assist council in allocating resources for public priority areas. The full report and assessment can be found on the town's website, and all inquiries should be directed to Barry Remanko, the CAO of the town. And there is a recommendation here that I will leave up to council after hearing some of their input. Council, please. Councilor Rhodes.
We'll also move as outlined in the recommendation that council receive the report as information and refer to the administration to incorporate the findings into business planning process.
Great, thank you. Seconder, Councilor Cronmiller. Discussion on the motion to receive, please. Councilor Rhodes first. Your honor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody that's watched our council meetings on an ongoing basis, and I know there's a huge crowd of you out there, will be well aware of the fact that I did not vote for this survey, but I certainly respect the process. And now that we're looking at some of the results, I wanted to just take a minute to really emphasize one of the bullet points, and that being the one that when they were asked about what the main issues are in the town, that the environment topped all of the responses for that particular question. This is something that's important to me as a councillor in this town, and I'm certainly happy to see that has been brought forward as an issue, and I'm really hoping that the residents of this town will recognize the environmental issues that we have in Osoyoos and our area around here, and make suggestions where you can, and try to be helpful in helping us work through this process. So thank you very much for that opportunity to speak towards that matter.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Chadsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was some talk about why we were doing the report and the cost involved, and I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that generally speaking, this is not something that we would have done. This probably would have come out of our economic development, but we're kind of in a transition. Destination Osoyoos is no longer doing our economic development service. And we have hired a community development officer who has not yet arrived. And so it is a survey that it was likely to have been done. It's just that it was done kind of through the mainstream as opposed to going through our economic development. So the cost, I'm not sure, but I believe it went through our resort municipality funding, did it? No, okay. So it would have come through our economic development budget. So this is great information for the new fellow when he arrives. And I was really pleased to see the overall feeling for the town, that generally people feel quite safe, quite satisfied, and quite relaxed in this wonderful community.
Not to say they didn't point out that we have some shortcomings and we have some work to do. Thank you, Councillor Chadsey. Councillor Cronmiller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always find these interesting when you do a survey and what the results are and what our purpose was. And I think in this case it was to find out kind of how we're doing and how our administration's doing within the town. And I think it certainly gave us some insights and information in those areas. As Councillor Rhodes said, the environment tops the list, and I'm sure that's because Osoyoos Lake's in the middle of town, and every time the lake is mentioned, it seems to be #1 on the list. And the other things are good information for us to work with, and for the administration. It gives us some ideas on directions we should be going in the future, and things that we can work on to improve. Also, the areas that we're doing well. So I think it was certainly a valuable exercise, and gave us results that I think are very positive.
Great, thank you. Councillor Ryan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we had never done anything quite like this before, and so it was a bit unprecedented. But I'm happy with the results, and I know that it was a little rough when it was being administered. Some people were getting calls at supper time, and they were not happy about that. But what I found most interesting in it is that it confirmed some of the directions that council had been going, and we've made, for example, a tremendous investment in working toward affordable housing. We've had land that we've designated for that purpose, and we're working to hopefully have it excluded from the ALR so that it can be used for that purpose. We've had a citizen panel that has worked over a period of a couple of months on this to develop our strategy. And it was interesting for me that this was one of the top 3 things that was mentioned in an unprompted way. In other words, not what do you think about what the council is doing in this regard or that regard, but what are some top things that you feel that the community needs? And affordable housing was right up there in the top 3. So that's good. And also the environment. We certainly know that we've been concerned about that in various ways, and our Northwest Sewer Extension was to ensure that we were protecting our lake and protecting our environment in that manner. So it has been helpful, and I would certainly encourage everyone to look on the website and to check it out. And you can access it. If you don't have a computer at home, you can always access it through the library or through other public access points. But it's certainly worth looking at, and I'm really pleased that people cooperated so well and made it a success.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. And I guess one area that I didn't really hear anyone talk about, I like the science of the interview process, and I also like the fact that we're reaching out to the silent majority, the people that don't write letters to the editor, the people that don't phone, people that don't send emails. So while we have sort of the vocal minority, and council likes those too, don't get me wrong here, that's an important part of our governance model, but it was really important to get out to that the silent majority, the people that are sitting at home, and they have opinions too, and this survey allowed us to touch base with some of those folks. So that's why I really was supportive of this, and I think the dollar amount was in that 7,700. I'm sorry I don't have it, but that's what the figure was. Awful close. Anything further? Voting on the motion to receive. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Under the additional business item, the OBW tipping fees, Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a late item that was presented. It's a matter of a little bit of urgency and something that we can do to kind of help out with our lake quality. The Okanagan Basin Water Board staff are currently working on the Osoyoos Lake shoreline, cleaning up milfoil in our lake. The OBWB staff have asked the council consider waiving the landfill tipping fees for the materials being delivered to the landfill. This cleanup of Osoyoos Lake is expected to take place over the next couple of months. A little bit of an overview. To date, we have received 14.38 tons, and the amount is $934.70 in tipping fee charges this date.
Thank you.
And I would like to move to waive the tipping fees to the Okanagan Basin Water Board for the cleanup of Osoyoos Lake, without the last word on there. And I would like to speak to that motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chadzi, the seconder. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking in favor of this, I'd like to point out, you know, anybody that's been around our lake and had a look at it in the last couple of months can see the harm and the congestion that this weed is causing in our lake right now. Regrettably, there was a breakdown of the harvesting machine for a little bit that set us back, but they are back in the water working actively in the Willow Beach area and any of the other problem areas. This milfoil weed is an insidious, invasive weed that grows at an alarming rate. If you would like to see, you can get the visual impact by looking at the Willow Beach area down there right now. It's in full bloom, or perhaps have already bloomed, and it doesn't allow boating, swimming, or any kind of an activity in there at all. And I feel that that this council, by approving this option, can really help out financially with the disposal of this commodity in our landfill. I think it's important to mention that this will be spread out over the area where our general garbage is going right now. It is a highly compostable material that will have a zero effect on the volume of stuff going in there over time. It will break down, in a lot of respects, actually improve the environment at the landfill. One final thing, anybody that wants some of this material, it's a beautiful compostable material that you can throw onto your gardens. It would be particularly effective in many of the orchards and any kind of farming activity in our community. Regrettably, we do not have a number that you can phone at this time, but I think if you call the town hall, you can be advised as to where you can get this, and I believe that delivery right to your destination could also be provided as well.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Nice cover on that. Anything further? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And that, again, just one follow-up, that is, I think it's free delivery. It's just hard to get. It's at Willow Beach, but, you know, they could be out on the harvester, and it's hard to get the product, but if you wanted to go down there with a pitchfork, you could probably load. Okay, that brings us to reports. And it's payroll accounts. Recommendations to approve general fund cash requirements in the amount of $289,007.98. Motion, please. Councillor Chadsey, Councillor Rhodes. Discussion. All in favor. Opposed. Carried. To approve Sunbolt fund cash requirements in the amount of $4,006.09. Councillor Cronmiller, Councillor Ryan. Discussion. All in favor. Opposed. And net payroll accounts of $64,172.33 for the period of June 26th to July 9th. Received for information. Motion to receive. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Chadsey. All in favor. Opposed. Carried. Thank you. There's a amended building permit report for the month of June. And there was no new construction going on there. Some small retaining walls. Well, there was a $140,000 garage and items like that. The figures are the total for the month, $237,000. Total to date, $2,286,000, and total to date for 2009 was $3,006,000. So we're still well behind even 09, which was also a slow year. So certainly not really lighting the fires with the building permits and what's going on. Although there is some major issues coming up to council soon. So we will maybe be looking at another bit of a development. So we'll just see how that plays out. The next item would be under reports would be number 3, bylaw enforcement report. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we've received a report from Steve Marshall from Marshall and Daniels Security, and they are our bylaw contract service provider in Asuyas. And I'm going to go over a little bit of the overview. The past few months have been highly productive for bylaw enforcement officers in Asuyas. The purpose of this report is to inform corporate services, mayor, and council of challenges, contributions, and ongoing compliance issues within the town of Asuyas. Unsightly premises, animal control, the new idling bylaw, and the recent addition of the boat trailer lot and related bylaws will be topics for review. Recent events leading up to the increase in transient fruit pickers and proposed solution will also be topics for consideration. Under the unsightly premises violations from April 2010 to present, 98 properties have been sent friendly reminders to keep their property free of debris. 73 of these properties were required additional inspections, bringing the total number of inspections to 158. And there is a little bit more wording in there that's available to anybody. Under the animal control has seen a lull in the amount of animals at large for this time of year. September is expected to be especially trying as people abandon their dogs within the municipality. And there are some statistics provided by the month. I guess there have been 24 apprehensions for cats and 27 for dogs. And there is some more boat trailer enforcement summary information available in there. A little bit about idling bylaw, which is kind of struggling right now with enforcement. We've been going through somewhat of a heat wave, and air conditioning is being used more frequently, and I think there has been a little bit of relaxation in the enforcement of that bylaw, and no fines have been issued to date. The transient peoples and logistics. In recent months, transient people have been removed from unofficial camps in a rural area in a bid to claim Crown land and limit the ever-growing threat of wildfires in our region. This initiative has posed a serious problem for enforcement agencies within Asuyas due to the influx of disgruntled transient people. Parks have seen double the activity in regard to this matter, and enforcement has been stretched as a result of added alcohol and dog and park infractions. Having a fruit pickers camp, such as those as Loose Bay, greatly decrease compliance issues for enforcement agencies and gives traveling migrant workers a safer place to gather. And meetings are underway with BC Ministries, RDUS, and enforcement officials to come up with a viable solution to Asuyas' growing needs. And that is the essence of that report.
Motion to receive, Councillor Rhodes and Councillor Chadsey. Anything further, Councillor Ryan?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. All in favor of receipt? Opposed? Carried. I'm going to actually sort of budge an item into here that I had mentioned I was going to talk about. I'm not going to do it under my report, and it follows right along with that, and that's the press release on the seasonal workers at the Okanagan. And on July the 15th, the town of Asuyas hosted 25 representatives from the Ministry of Forest and Range, Ministry of the Environment, Conservation Officer Service, RCMP, Bylaw Enforcement, BC Fruit Growers Association, Regional District of Okanagan Smokeamine, which we had Area A Director and Area C Director. The Town of Oliver, Mayor and 2 councillors were here. I was at it. I attended the meeting. Our Corporate Services Director, our Public Works Director, and we were there to discuss issues related to seasonal workers. And the focus was to discuss the issues and how it impacts the community. And while we realize they're an integral part of the agricultural industry, really the town of Vesuvius doesn't have an agricultural industry within the area that the taxpayers are responsible for. And we were looking at how this impacted our town and how it impacted all these other groups. And we did a roundtable there, and everyone came forward with what they thought the solution would be. Besides stating their problem, they then stated what the solution would be. And by far the biggest number thought that the solution would be a camp of some form, maybe similar to the Loose Bay camp in Oliver, a place for these folks to go and to have some basic needs met. You know, showers and toilets and running water, potable water. So we kicked that off, and the top three were accommodation, which is what I'm talking about, transportation, and that may preclude a camp. Maybe we can get some sort of bus service going, and maybe they can go to Loose Bay and Oliver. But transportation was certainly one of the discussion points, and another one was communication, and trying to communicate with the workers, the availability of work, whether there's any work here or not, and when to expect the work to begin, because we seem to be getting them coming earlier and earlier every year. So these were all put together. We're kicking this off. There's some people that are going to run with all of those ideas. I know that the actual looking at the land and looking for a piece of land, Mark Pendergraft stepped forward from rural area A, and he's going to get some work going so that we can see if there's any land available, and looking at some of the ministries. And again, I know we've heard quite a bit about this, but we are looking at being proactive and trying to have something in place by the time that this comes next year. And that the focus of the meeting was looking at solutions for accommodation for the workers. And I recognize there is a small faction of this seasonal group that are not workers and have created issues within the town of Vesuvius and outlying jurisdictions. And council will be considering additional park enforcement at its council meeting, and will be working to identify other needs to ensure that all visitors and residents in Vesuvius can enjoy the parks and beaches. So that's what we saw tonight. That was some of that was the 294 hours, and also the, not proclamation, but the position that we want to kick this off and get something going, and whether that be a camp or transportation, it can't be what it was this year. So the solutions will be what they are as they unfold, but they won't be what they were this year. And if that takes more bylaw, more police, whatever it takes, it's going to improve. And there's been a lot of input from merchants on Main Street. There's petty crime involved with this. Well, it's not petty. Sorry, shoplifting is not a petty crime. But there's quite a few issues that we have going on in the town this year, and it's not satisfactory. This is council is going to be making some moves toward. Okay, that brings us to under reports. Councilor's report. It must be Councilor Rhodes. I'm going with I'm trying to remember the alphabetical one, and I think I'm into my third week here. Councilor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the irony is uncanny. Finding I get chosen first, and and due to some technical difficulties, my report did not arrive here tonight. So I will reserve time at the next meeting if that's acceptable.
Well, you may have lost your slot. Councilor Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first of all, I want to thank Councilor Rhodes for standing in for me. I'm the acting mayor in case the mayor can't do something this month of July, and I had to be away last week, and so Councilor Rhodes very kindly said that he would cover for me, and I was happy to see that he didn't look exhausted and didn't look like he had been run off his feet. So, but nevertheless, I'm grateful that he stood in for me. I wanted to talk a little bit, just briefly, about the idling bylaw. I didn't realize that we were going to have our bylaw officer discuss it, but I have noticed in walking around town that a few people, sometimes you have an empty car and it's sitting there and it's idling, and the odd time there's somebody in there checking their email or something on their BlackBerry and got it running. And I just want to say that you know, the importance of our bylaw is that we are trying to reduce our carbon emissions, and these are the things that and as a province, I mean, we're committed to doing this, and that's why we have that little bit on our fuel, or whether it's for our cars or for our houses, our homes, and so on. We're trying to cut those down because it's not good for our environment. It's not good for us as humans. And it's interesting that you know, almost every place in Osoyoos is air conditioned. So when you go there, if someone in the vehicle with you is going inside, why don't you just go with them, and it'll be air conditioned. And if you don't have any shopping to do or anything to go to or any doctor's appointments, well, go over to the Sonora Center. It's nice and cool there, and you can go to the library. But try to observe that. If your car isn't moving and you're not at the traffic light, why just turn it off and get in the shade or go into a nice air-conditioned building. Also, because it's summer, we want the pedestrians to have a safe transit across the street. So drivers, make sure that you stop for pedestrians when they're in the crosswalk and trying to cross the street. I happened to be last week in Denver with celebrating a friend's anniversary, and we went through a little town, and they had little signs in the middle of the street saying, "State law, stop for pedestrians in crosswalks." At every corner where there was a crosswalk, they had these little signs pointing both directions, and I thought, well, they really remind you, just so you don't forget. So we don't have those signs, but the same thing applies. So please, if you're driving a car, stop for pedestrians. If you're a pedestrian, push that little button if there is one, and just wait to be observed, because you just dash out there, sometimes people aren't ready for you. So we want everyone to have a safe and an enjoyable and really pleasant summer. And thirdly, the Agricultural Land Commission made a decision recently on the Wish property. This is a property that someone was asking to have excluded so that they could build on it, and it's over near, I guess it's almost at the just before the curve and the fruit market, Fernandez Fruit Market, and the 45th Street, is it, where it goes into Incomeep. And that came before council, and there was a difference of opinion about it, but it was not excluded. It was rejected. So I hope that we will see some that orchard come back to life, and some fruit grow there, or some other use for it. And I guess worst case, the owner could always give it to the town, and we could turn it into the community gardens. So. But anyway, it would be it's good agricultural land, and we hope that it will be productive soon again. That's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was sitting here thinking it's the middle of summer, and we're going to have a short meeting. What am I going to report? It's like, but then I thought about it, and I thought there are a couple of things that I'd just like to mention. Most of my thunder was earlier with the transient issue and the policing issue. But when I go out on the lake in my boat and observe shenanigans of the boaters on the lake, I think of the things that we heard at our public hearing the other week, and that we hear from our citizens about the lake and the use of the lake and how people do that. And unfortunately, very difficult to police. There's a little piece of paper you need to drive, and then drive a boat supposedly, and it's not worth the print that's on it, because anybody can get one on the internet, and that doesn't mean they do anything when they go out in the lake and think about the rules. So I think that what I'm going to preach tonight is patience. We live in Osoyoos, we live in a tourist mecca, and everybody loves to come here when it's 30 degrees, and I just left Vancouver this morning, and it was 20, and it's 30 here. You know, I know why I live here. So, yeah, this is the nature of where we are, and this is the dollars that people bring to town this time of year, and we have to have patience with those people, whether it's on the lake or whether it's on the street, and try and make their visit as pleasurable as possible, because they're our industry. And soon enough it'll be Labor Day, and they'll go home, and we get to stay and enjoy the peace and quiet. But for a couple months we have to have a little patience. It's okay. They'll enjoy themselves, and we can too. That's my report.
Good comment, Councillor Cronmiller. Councillor Chadsey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm out on the water a lot, also in the dragon boat, and it can be kind of scary, but I really want to say that those big power boats and the Sea-Doos are very, very respectful of us, so we all appreciate that. Earlier this month, I went to a meeting, the Oliver and Osoyoos Child and Youth Committee. Now, this is a group that was formed a while ago. It kind of got sidetracked, and it's back up and running again. The mission of the Child and Youth Committee is to provide a forum for exchanging information to identify, address, and advocate for child and youth needs in the community. And so there's always an exchange of information among all the various agencies, and they look for ways to encourage, support, and develop planning and services for the children, and also ways for the children to participate. And I'm just briefly going to read some of the groups that are involved in this collaboration. The Aboriginal Ministry of Children and Family Development, ARC, South Okanagan, the Okanagan Boys and Girls Clubs, Community for Kids, Desert Sun Counseling, Addiction Services from Interior Health, the Ministry for Children and Family Development, Oliver Osoyoos Public Health, the Osoyoos Child Care Center, Penticton and District Community Resources Services, the RCMP, the Town of Oliver, the Town of Osoyoos, and Work Zone. These people come together. We have 4 meetings a year. The next one is in September. And they talk about the difficulties they're having. This time we talked about the restorative justice system and how that's trying to be introduced. The Ministry for Children and Family Development talked about the need for some foster home. They talked about the care of a child with a relative, that program that's coming up. All these things that I did not have a clue that were going on, and I was so you know, it was all above me. It was my first meeting. I was asked to represent the Town of Osoyoos, and I was absolutely amazed at the dedication of each one of these groups. Most of them are volunteer or grant funded, but they have this such a keen passion to do what they can to make sure that the children and youth of the South Okanagan are cared for and that they don't fall through the cracks. So kudos to them. I'm proud to be on the committee, and I look forward to being able to continue letting everyone know how we're making out. One other thing I wanted to talk about. There's a Bluegrass Festival coming to Osoyoos, August the 6th, 7th, and 8th at Desert Park. This is the 5th annual one. And what happens is musicians come. Sometimes there are different bands that come together. But a lot of times it's just individual musicians, 1 or 2. And they come, they hook up with other musicians, they form bands, and then they play on the stage. So this is an open invitation to all you wonderful musicians here in the Town of Osoyoos and Oliver. And I know who some of you are. So just pack up your banjos and your guitars and your mandolins and head up there on Friday and Saturday. We can find you someone else to play with or a group. And as a matter of fact, they do have a band scramble where everybody puts the musical instrument that they play goes into a hat, and then they're all picked indiscriminately. They're formed a band, and they have to play 3 songs without any practice. So it's a lot of fun, and we hope you'll come on up and join us. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey, for the information on both items that you talked about there. I don't really have a long report or anything. I just want to talk a bit about the Okanagan Basin Water Board. That milfoil issue out there is really really nasty this year, as Councillor Rhodes alluded to. Some of that reason is because we didn't get the rototilling done, and I was out there with the crew, and you can see where they rototilled in the winter time. So this would be the February rototill where they actually do the lake bottom. And you can see where that was effective, but they just didn't get enough of it done. And where they didn't, of course, is, well, there was, when I was out at the north end, out at Willow Beach, there was ducks walking on the milfoil growth on top of the lake. It's just sort of this mat out there now. So it's bad. And I don't think I reported this back, but in the 6th of, on the 8th of July, there was the Weeds Cross Border Tour, and I know I talked to council about it, but I don't think I talked to the public about it. And I guess it was just a fantastic tour about the invasive weeds, puncture vine, and all the ones that are coming. And it's Washington State and British Columbia. But I guess the point to note was they may have a midge and a weevil that are potentially capable of handling the milfoil in the Osoyoos Lake, and it's being done through Washington State, and it's being done through the Columbia River, and they've got a lot of money behind them, Bonneville Power Authority, and that. So maybe there's a hope out there. This is all fairly new information. I've gone on to be on a mailing list. So if I can start getting some information there and start nailing this down, I certainly will report back with further information on our invasive weed in Osoyoos Lake. And I think that's basically all. So looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Cronmiller, Councillor Ryan, all in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Have a good evening, folks. And this is our last evening meeting. See you 2 o'clock, August the 16th. Thanks.